Hello. So today we're going to talk about influencer marketing. How can you or your company take advantage of this so amazing tool? And I brought an amazing guest for you to explain everything about this. Please stay tuned because we'll be here in a moment. Hello, everybody. So today we're going to talk about influencer marketing. And to talk about this, who can be better than Neal Schaffer, an amazing professional, an amazing expert, and most important than that, a great guy who was on my show kind a year ago, and he was amazing, and he accepted to be coming back again. So, influencer marketing could be an amazing thing for you to take advantage of influencers, and who knows, you and your company may also become an influencer. But before starting, please let me know if it's everything okay on your side. Let me know where are you located, and if everything is okay. And let me see if Neal is there on the basement. I let him with a cookie and a glass of water. Let me see if he is there. Okay, so there you go. You are here. Hello, Neal.
I was rocking out to that guitar.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I love that music. It has so many power. It's good to start with rhythm, with power. You have a drum there.
No, but I'm a drummer. I have drumsticks in my office, though.
Oh, it's nice to take stress away, right?
Indeed, it is. Indeed, it is. All right.
So Neal, first of all, thank you a lot to allow us to have you on my show again. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. It's so good to have you here. I had so much fun the other show, and it was so insightful. So for me, it's so good to have you here again. Thank you so much uh, for being here. I will ask you. And I want to give you a big hug because we didn't talk before about the what happened to your father. It was I'm sorry, and I want to give you a big hug because we didn't have I sent you a message, but we are almost face to face. So feel hugged by me about this
Thank you very
because
much. And
unfortunately I know what this is. I will ask you, even though people, I think most of them will know who you are. I will ask you please to introduce yourself and let's start the conversation, please.
sure. Well, my name, for those of you who don't know, is hopefully you figured it out, is Neal Schaffer because it's written like right below me. I'm based in the United States. I am a digital and social media marketing author, speaker, consultant. I teach at a few universities. I just wrote this new book, which is conveniently right in front of me here, called The Age
Okay.
of Influence. Well, there we go. Which is all about influencer marketing. And yeah, normally I work with companies. So for people, I really enjoy podcasts, live streams, blogging, just to be able to share what I learned from working with companies, so that people, small businesses, entrepreneurs can take advantage of it. And that's who I am in a nutshell.
Absolutely. And I think you make it so short that some people may not believe that you are an amazing guy who is on the biggest congress in the world about marketing, and you are almost in all of them, which is amazing. So I think it's one of the things you talk more often is what influencers are teaching to marketers, because I think you talked about this lots of times, because influencers brought something to the table, and marketers, most of them doesn't bring that. What could it be?
Wow. Well, here's the thing, and I think the way to look at it, as I'm trying to adjust my chair here, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
There we go. Okay. Much better. Okay, there we go. So I think that's at the end of the day, okay, let's take the example of Instagram. And when you look at images in Instagram, if you follow any companies, it's pretty easy to see which images come from people and which images come from business. Because businesses like to talk about themselves. They like to talk about their products. People talk about their lives. So just, it's funny because I tell people when we look at like who are influencers to younger generations, you have YouTubers, you have TikTokers, obviously you have Instagrammers. Any business could have done this. Any business could have had an employee. They could have had, Coca-Cola Ninja be the big gamer, anybody, but they didn't because they lacked the creativity, they lacked the authenticity, they lacked the transparency, they lacked the relatability. At the end of the day, I've been saying this for like a decade, but it truly is more and more today that social media was made for people, not for businesses, right? So we're coming back to where if you want to make traction in organic social media, because the promise of organic social media was inciting word of mouth marketing, the fact that you'd have a fan page and your fans would see your content and engage, and then friends of fans would see that and everything would go viral and it would be magical. And it just does not happen because social media is pay to play, but the people that are getting authentic engagement are influencers. And it's not just people with 1 million followers, right? It's the Marco Novas, the Neal Schaffers. It's a lot of people out there, regardless of how small your following might be, that is getting genuine engagement. So, more and more, the landscape is very fragmented. 20, 30 years ago, we all sort of watched the same TV shows and listened to the same radio. And now it's all over the place. And, case in point, even in our industry, Marco, I recently did a book giveaway for the Age of Influence. And I asked people, who are your favorite podcasters? Who are your favorite people to follow on Instagram? And the answers were all over the place. Yeah, sure, on podcasts, some people like Pat Flynn, but some people liked other people, right? On Instagram, yeah, there were some people following whoever, but, because we're people and we have lots of different interests and we're influenced by a lot of different things now. And social media gives us the ability to find those exact people, right? Maybe Neal Schaffer isn't right for everybody, but for somebody, it's great. And Marco, you're the same, right? People can
Absolutely.
find people can find who they jive with, right? Who they learn from and who they trust. And this is something that's just very, very difficult fundamentally for companies to do because they serve to profit. They don't serve to serve. And what's really interesting, Marco, is that with the whole coronavirus pandemic that's happened since we last talked, I think that businesses realize that they need to really get back to the roots in serving people if they want to survive, and they want to keep building a community and they want to serve their community. So this is only proven, everything I've talked about becomes much more important for businesses. But this is really the role. I know that everybody thinks, oh, influencer marketing, I need to pay someone $1 million to post a photo that's going to get fake engagement. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about people with a few thousand followers that get tens, 100, 200 instances of engagement is a lot for a lot of small businesses, right? So, let's do a sync or a reset on what you think influencer marketing is. But I consider organic social media, yes, you have to have an organic presence, but at the end of the day, it's influencer marketing that's really going to drive your organic social media and get people talking about your brand in social media.
Absolutely. Well, Neil, you gave me so many insights. I'm thinking about one thing. It's important, and I think you agree with me. There's this ego thing on companies, and more. It depends. I think it's proportional to the size, and which says, okay, I won't show myself vulnerable because, for instance, one thing I heard often is, "Oh, I won't show my things on internet because people will criticize me, will copy me, everything." So I just go in this safe path, which safe um, that is talking in a corporate way, that gray thing and heavy, and I won't show myself vulnerable because it's bad. Because no, I'm a big company, or I'm not, but I think I am. And other thing, it's and you also mentioned it's the fact of sometimes you want to talk to a so broader audience that you're talking to nobody. And as you said, this problem about thinking that an influencer are those beautiful lady, this muscle guy, and they are not. They are people like you, for instance. And we know so many of them who are influencers, not because they are beautiful, but because they know what they're talking about. They engage with the people. So I think this micro targeting and to be human at the end of the day maybe pays the bills. Don't you think about it?
Absolutely. I think what's really interesting, not just the pandemic, but with Black Lives Matter, people, consumers are sort of demanding that businesses make a stand. And this is something that I don't think we've ever seen before in the history of the world. This is how, influential social media has become, but this is how much people really want businesses to stand behind them to share their values. And I think with each younger generation, we see more and more of that. So, yeah, you can't just stay behind your corporate speak. You have to say, do you support this? If you have a brand that embodies the racism of the past, are you going to rename your product? That we've seen a lot of major brands have to do. So, we live in interesting times, but those trends that I talk about of, trust in people, relatability, these are only going to grow with time. So I think, yes, definitely that corporate conservative, it's safe to say, oh, here's a new sale, or here's a new product. But you're not speaking with people. And at the end of the day, your content does so bad that organic social media is even worse for you. And then
Absolutely.
you have to spend money on advertising, right? You go to a social media conference, it's all about Facebook ads. That's not social media. That's paid media. That's advertising. And so social media then becomes just another advertising platform for you. And you miss out on the chance to truly connect and engage with people that can carry the word forward about your brand. So it's sort of a vicious circle until you really break out of it and realize that you have to be in tune with your community. I mean, if people are buying product from you, they're part of your community. Marco, you serve your community. You're there live streaming regularly. You're responding to people. You're bringing in guests that you think your community would like. Businesses sort of have to have the same mindset with their social media, because it's social media. It's not email marketing. It's not SEO. It's not content marketing. It's social. And companies they still don't get it. More and more do, obviously, over time. And what's really funny is the smaller businesses, the people that are heavy Instagram users or that are heavy LinkedIn users or Twitter users, they get it. And that's why you see a lot of disruption from companies that do really well on social media, because they're able to leverage that.
Absolutely. Well, we have some comments here. Let's
Comments.
yeah.
Woohoo!
Hello, Ryan. Nice to see you here.
Hey, Ryan.
And Ryan says people love to criticize on internet. Yes, some of them like, but there's also the other side
Yes.
of the yeah, yeah. And well said, influencers are really just people who engage with others. We have this question: as a business, is it better to use social media as the company or select certain individuals to represent the company? Nice question.
Great question. As a
Thank you.
Yes, as a company, you still need to have a presence, because you need to be a credible company. And if you don't have a business page, then you have no credibility, you have no social proof. So you should have a business presence. In terms of the content, I like the thinking, instead of sort of speaking corporate speak, we speak people speak, and we have people represent. And this is something that we would call employee advocacy, of having your employees be part of your program. The way I like to look at it is, instead of thinking that way, why wouldn't you include your customers as part of your social media? And what we're finding, especially with visual social media, which is very challenging for businesses, there are some brands that 100% of the content they publish is not their own content. It's all what we call UGC, or user generated content. And it's people that are posting content with a hashtag that they are then able to repost. Now, if you're not a big consumer brand, that's very, very hard to do. But that's why, looking at influencer marketing, we have employees, we have customers, we have fans, we have partners. There's a lot of people that already like, know, and trust us. why don't we work together with them for our content instead of always thinking about how are we going to talk about ourselves? And that would be the direction that I would take if I were you. Now, if you're just a startup, or if you're in sort of a niche B2B industry where the numbers aren't there, it's one thing. But if you have followers that have a few hundred or 1,000, even in the influencer marketing industry, a few years ago they were talking about micro influencers. These people with only 10,000 followers are the future. Now they're talking about nano influencers, which is between 1 and 10,000 followers. So it doesn't take a lot of followers to have some influence. And think about when you collaborate with these people, when you repost their content, the message that you're sending them. And then think about when people come to your social media profiles, the message that they see. You're not talking about yourself. Other people, they're seeing other people's opinions about you and your company, right? It just sends a powerful message to the people that care about you and that you should be caring more for, as well as for other people that don't know anything about your company. When they come, you're not being seen as just another company that's going through the motions of posting something every day because they feel they have to and not getting any engagement because the content just isn't that good and isn't that engaging.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, we have some questions on this side also. Karinder, hello, Karinder. Nice to have you here. And he says, and this is another great question, which is this content quality that we talk often, but it doesn't. The quality when we talk about content doesn't always have to be informative, because there's this thing. Because, for instance, if you have a bar or a disco or a restaurant, your content should not be always how to cook potatoes, So Karina was asking, but would you need to know your knowledge, right? I mean, if you are an influencer, or if you want to build your influence, you want to share, to know what you're talking about. But also you can be an influencer because you entertain your audience, for instance. Okay, but you're not sharing your knowledge in the educational way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so now we sort of switch gears, because on the flip side of influencer marketing are people like us that want to become more influential. And it's something I talk about in my book as well. So when we look at it that way, why would people follow you? Right? Because at the end of the day, social media is about publishing content, whether it's an image or a video or text, what have you. So you need people have to have a reason to want to follow you. And normally it's a informational aspect, right? Whether it's learning how to play Fortnite better, whether it's learning how to cook or workout exercises or yoga or the best email marketing software out there or the best microphone for podcasting out there. There's a reason that people follow other people. So yes, entertainment, obviously, if you want to tell jokes, a TikTok is a social network purely about entertainment, about
Absolutely.
dancing, right? So yeah, you don't have to, we're not talking about people with PhDs here, but
absolutely.
The important thing is, Marco, how long have you been live streaming?
Let me see, 2015, almost 5 years.
And have you been pretty consistent with like weekly live streams over the last 5 years?
At the beginning, no, but now I am.
Okay. Yes. So Marco, you are a testament that if you want to become influential, it is a marathon and not a sprint. Absolutely. It takes consistency. And if you're not passionate about it, you're going to give up. And I'll tell you my own story. I started a podcast. It's called Maximize Your Social Influence. I started it in 2013, and I did well the first year or two. And then I took like a 3-year break, in all honesty, right? And then in Q4 of last year, 2019, I started to listen to podcasts myself. I'm like, oh my God, podcasts are like brain food. What have I been thinking? I thought of podcasting as just another type of content marketing. The way I criticize the way that businesses do social media, I was doing the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing it all wrong. And I restarted, and now I've been doing it every week ever since then, right? Some weeks I do twice. So what I'm trying to say here is it has to last. This is something that has to last you a year, 2 years, 3 years, if you really want to make it work from an influence perspective. And therefore, if you're not passionate about it, and that's why if there's something you know a lot about, there's a lot you can talk about, and you're probably passionate about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone that far. So if you're passionate about dancing, about entertaining, right? Whether it's juggling or telling jokes, I don't know what it is. But if you start with your passion, it's a formula for success.
Absolutely.
So if you're trying
A-
to figure out what should I be an influencer in, you're sort of missing the point, and I don't think you're going to be successful.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about another two things about this. One, those mostly kids who start, oh, I want, because there's when we were young, we didn't have this because we have just one TV program, and it was really hard to get there. We have books, a newspaper, and that's it. But now everything is so mediatic, and so we see, for instance, we see people coming and going from TV, from social medias, everything, and sometimes we think success it's like, okay, I'm famous and people want to be influencers. They don't want to be recognized as the guy who knows a lot about this. No, I want to become an influencer. And on the other side, there are people that don't want to start share content because somehow this influencer thing has a negative side. And oh, I don't want, because I don't want to be seen as an influencer. Let me stay here quiet. I don't want to. What do you think about this, Neil?
So there's a rule that I write about in my book that actually comes from someone that wrote about 15 years ago. And he said basically the internet is 90% lurkers, 9% commenters, and 1% content creators. And I think that's very true with social media as well, right?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Absolutely.
and it's okay to be a lurker, right? You don't, we I do social media for a living, so I have to be engaging. You don't have to be. You can use social media just to consume content. You don't have to, publish your own content. But if you're in a business, I was on a podcast last night with a gentleman in Australia, and his basically the listeners are all consultants and coaches, but they're in like B2B industries, like manufacturing and engineering and healthcare. And I said, the thing is, and we see it now with coronavirus, but even before then, the number one thing you can do if you want to market, if you want to get more customers, if you want to market what you do, if you want to leverage what digital is, right? What do people do when we know that people, more than watch TV, they spend time online. So if you want to get in front of people, they're either searching for content, they're reading emails, or they're on social media. So search social email. But anything you do in any one of these things requires content. So if you're not able to share your opinions, share your experiences, answer questions, have conversations, these are all types of content. If you can't do that, then you're not going to be successful to market your business today. And I firmly believe this. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to do email. You don't have to do SEO. But you need to have content. You need to be able to express what you do and how you help people, whether it's text or audio or video or imagery. It is a necessary skill set for the entrepreneur, for the marketer of today.
Absolutely. And there's this thing about content that for me it's crucial, which is feedback. And I think, Neil, let me know if I'm wrong, but I never wrote a book. I want to. I want to write my own book. But I think that some ideas, if not all of them, will come because of the feedback you got, or just by looking. And uh, Gary V talks about a lot about this, which that the comments are the most valuable source of feedback and new content he has. Don't you think that it's also important to companies and to people who want to become an influencer, whichever it means? Don't you think it is important to be present on comments?
Absolutely. Getting back to this podcast yesterday, it was about innovation. So I was asked, Neal, what is your number one tip for thinking about new innovations in your business or in life? But I was really focused on the business. And I said, I always think of new innovations when I'm deeply working with my customers because they are telling me all the problems, the challenges they have, and that's giving me ideas to find new products and services to serve them, which is the same as the comments, right? Or the mentions you get in social media. Because at the end of the day, we think our content is, focused on this audience or helping this person or provides this advice, but it's just like branding in general. Companies own the logo, but they can't own the perception of what people think of your brand, right? So
Absolutely.
it's the same thing with your content, the feedback, or about your business. The feedback lets you know if you're doing well or not, if the content is on target or not. And when people share their challenges, I mean, Ask Gary V is a classic example of creating a product from questions, right?
Absolutely.
Gary is really good at that. So absolutely, that will lead you to not only better optimize your content, but it also leads to new ideas, new innovations for products and services.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's also this thing about influencers, which is and I think you it happened to me, it happened to everybody when we start and we should always we should think about this also about money, which is you started with something in mind, and at the end of the day, you, because people are asking you something, you may come up with new ideas, which may become also a source of money if to monetize. Don't you think it's also important to build an audience? We, of course, don't sell your soul to devil.
Right.
But
But I mean, if you ask anybody, I'm a big fan of Pat Flynn. And everybody, let's say you want to launch a new product. Let's say you want to launch a digital course. What is the first thing you're going to do? You're going to survey your community as to what their needs are and then develop product from that, right? It's just a classic marketing strategy. You have companies that beta test things. Gmail was a beta test for like a decade to get feedback to try to figure out the best product. You have companies, test market products and services to get feedback to see if we develop this product and manufacture it, would people actually buy it? So, feedback in many ways, whether it's building influence, whether it's, selling products and services, better understanding what people think of you. I mean, it really is the key thing that you need, because you cannot imagine what challenges they have or how they think about you. So it's just an essential part. And social media is great for that. That's what a lot of companies miss out on, because it is easy to have those conversations. It is easy just to be a lurker and listen into what people are saying about your brand and get a lot of insight from
absolutely,
that.
absolutely. Well, I was thinking about this also, this challenge about influencer marketing. I'm sure that you already heard about this. People are looking for those big influencers, those trend influencers, and even though they are to other market, they don't resound with your tone, with your company, with your customers. No, because they are big. Maybe it's good. It's like being on a TV advertising. Well, here in Portugal, still being a thing, being on TV. Oh, look, my advertising on the TV. Don't you think that this problem remains, which is looking for the golden or boy or lady, and not looking for this focus to my target, to my market influencer?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to go that far, why don't you just reach out to a Hollywood movie star? Or why don't you just reach out to a Messi or Ronaldo? Because when influencers get to that level, when they're actually on TV commercials, they're celebrities. They're not social media influencers, right? And that's really what you have to think about here. So if they're not on TV yet they have a lot of followers, then the interests are so broad. So for instance, and I give this case study, when I publish the book, obviously part of my marketing is I am trying to get more people to review it on Amazon. So I could have gone up to an influencer, paid them $10,000. They have 100,000 followers. They hold up the book in a pretty photo. Hey, check out this book called The Age of Influence by this person named Neal Schaffer. It has all this advice on influencer marketing. How many people do you think would respond to that, right? Now, for the same $10,000, let's say, or let's just say $1,000, I can reach out to people that reviewed my previous books. I can reach out to influencers that I've been on their podcasts or that I have reviewed their books. I can reach out to people that already know me or like me or trust me. And I can say, hey, I'd love to send you a copy of my new book. And, if you find it recommendable, I'd love to get an Amazon review. But if not, no worries. I just want you to have the book and hopefully you'll leverage my experience. And for the price of $1,000, I could probably send out 400 of those books. So think which is going to be more effective. And I think with influencer marketing, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was all about the person with the most followers. So guess what? A lot of people, a lot of companies so we're a talent agency. We're going to become an influencer marketing agency. We're going to bring on good looking people that know how to use Instagram. And we're going to go on a fashion shoot with them over the course of a week. We'll have 20 different outfits from different manufacturers. And we're going to create 1,000 photos and we're going to drip feed them one at a time over the course of 3 years. And we're going to create robots that do auto follow, unfollow, and auto engage. And we're going to get into Instagram pods. And you now have a recipe for fraud, which is what happened. And there's a tremendous amount of fraud in the influencer marketing industry, because if you put the value on number of followers, guess what? Everybody tries to game the system and get the followers. And that's why the micro and the nano influencers especially are so important, because if they were buying followers, they wouldn't be nano influencers anymore, right? And that's the thing. So you can waste a lot of money, at least with TV, with a TV ad, with Nielsen ratings, what have you, you sort of know about how many people are going to see that ad. But with influencer marketing, you don't know. When you reach out to that celebrity on Instagram that has 1 million followers, you don't know how many of the followers are real. You don't know how much engagement is real. And you don't know with the algorithm how many people are actually going to see that content. So if you want to work with other people on social media, you really want to make sure you're working with the right person if you really want to get ROI for that money that you spend, for those reasons.
Absolutely. And because you also don't know how aware of your products are the followers, because I was thinking that this is a three-way trust relation, which is the brand, the influencer, and his audience. And if somehow this trust way is broke, everything is gone. And as you said, it's a marathon. And if you don't find the right, as an influencer, if you don't get the right product or service to your following, they will feel betrayed.
Yeah, it's funny. There's and as influencers do more and more of this, they start to create a track record. So which can work for or against them. So I'll give you a great example. There's one pretty influential person in the world of social media. I'm not even going to say if they're male or female, but they are someone that were heavily pushing a certain video marketing software platform. And they had a really, really good discount. And they were doing webinars and they were like a brand ambassador. And just today, I get an email that they're working with another video marketing software and they're offering another discount. So for me, it's like, this is someone that I really trust. And I actually bought an annual subscription based on that discount, and that person saying, this is what now they're representing a completely different company, sort of saying the same thing. And it's like, and it brings up the point that you made. There is that trust that the influencer has to have with their community. And I'm thinking that's really, I understand with, we influencers are always trying to monetize their presence, what have you. But if you have been listening to what this influencer has been saying for the past few years, it's going to be a little bit weird. So imagine when celebrities one day are wearing Nike shoes and the next day they're wearing Adidas shoes. And then the next day they're wearing Puma shoes. They're advertisements. It's media. You're not relating to a person now. They have become a media outlet that will just advertise anything and everything for anyone and everyone. And you lose that value, right? Which is what social media and what, niche communities are about. So yes, and as an influencer, it is a very, very, I won't say you're on a tightrope per se, but it's a very, very hard balance between you wanting to monetize your influence by working with brands, but also respecting the needs of your community and not looking like you'll just represent anybody. And that when you represent someone, it actually has value to your community. So that's really tricky. And it sounds really easy to do, but it's not, as you can imagine.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and that's something I think that every influencer struggles with. So there's a lot of pushback. Well, from a lot of companies. Well, influencers, they'll just like sell everything and anything. So don't they lose trust with their community? And yes, the bad influencers lose trust with their community. You're absolutely right. The good influencers realize that, hey, I'm only going to represent one brand in this sector, right? Or if I post every day for 30 days, I'm only going to do sponsored content at a max once or twice a month, and they keep a balance. These are the things that the good influencers do, and those are the ones you want to work with. It's funny, there's all these influencer marketing tools, and I sign up to some that give you like an audit, and it's like, advertising frequency, right? Mine was low and it was in red. Like I'm not doing enough sponsored content, which to me is the opposite, right? If every
You're
post
losing money, Neil. You're losing money.
so yeah, it's really, really interesting. And I find that the way I talk about influencers here and in the book is a little bit disruptive to the companies that are used to doing things the old way. Work with people that have a lot of followers. Engagement is everything. They should be doing more. Only want to work with people that do a lot of sponsored content. And so anyway, I think a lot of common sense will do a lot of people really well in this space.
Yeah, I know. I understand what you're talking about because I've seen I've seen some people also doing this because one day they are talking about this company and the very next day they are talking about the competitor, which is like
Exactly. And brands are getting smarter. They're actually, and I recommend this as well, they're actually creating contracts that's very clear as to what is the company providing, what is the influencer providing. And there's a lot of non-competes that you will not work with another company in this industry for a year. And I think that's very fair if it's a good deal for the influencer. And I've signed some of those as well, working with some pretty big brands. So that is one way to fix that issue. And businesses should be smart when working with influencers, especially when you get out of those people that don't have brand affinity for you. You don't know what's on the other side, right? So that's where you need to be really careful, I think.
yeah, and also a thing that I don't know if you've seen, but here in Portugal I've seen there's these influencers that they started by talking about something and then they want to go in other or in a broader way, if you know what I mean, and they start talking about things they don't know what they are talking about. They are making some there's this also because there are so many people who believes them as like they are a holy voice and but there's because some of them talk about health mostly. I think it's when things go to health they are in a very sensitive field. Your thoughts on this because how can we understand as professionals to avoid to educate people to not to pay more attention to this problematic because for instance people want to we are in an age of image, so people want to look beautiful, look slim, look fit, and some influencers just because they make some some exercise they will become personal trainers.
Yeah.
How can we avoid this?
Yeah, at the end of the day, if people will buy from you, that's awesome, right? But the way that you build influence is normally around what we call niche. So for me, my first two books were about LinkedIn. So I was known as sort of the LinkedIn guy. This is like 10 years ago. But I realized the needs of businesses went beyond one social network, and I needed to work with all of them. But I wasn't talking about my experiences with Twitter and Facebook at the time until I had more experience in actually working with them with businesses and finding insights and being able to share those. So I think it's common that, and I also see with a lot of people in social media, they start with an Instagram podcast. Then they start talking about, well, if you want to be successful, you need to have a lead magnet. You need to get people on your list. And then they start talking about click funnels. They start talking about like website design. And it's very interesting. But the fact of the matter is that there's riches in the niches. But once you get into the niche, you can leverage your community by going broader and broader and broader and introducing them to more and more things. Now, it's really interesting. There's an author in the marketing space who all of a sudden is selling branded masks, for coronavirus. That to me is a little bit bizarre. But for Pat Flynn beginning with a podcast and now doing a course with email marketing, to me, it's a natural fit because I subscribe to his emails. Obviously, he knows what he's been doing, and he's been very successful over the last decade. So, branching out is natural. Once you have your product, it's almost like when I used to work at a semiconductor company before social media, really before the internet. But we would sell to all these different manufacturers, and maybe in each device, let's say in each fax machine, they used $1 or $2 of our product. We'd always try to sell more product so that with every fax machine, we would have a bigger footprint. We would get more money. We'd get $3 or $4 or $5. So I can understand if you have a community of 50 people that are paying you $10 a month for something, if you can offer them additional products and services to get an additional $10, $20, $30 a month, that's a recipe for success, because everybody forgets that it's much easier to sell to an existing customer base than to try to get new customers, right? So I get it, but it has to be done in a way that, people can see through BS on the internet. So if you don't have that experience to be able to talk to, it may work against you and you may lose credibility. On the other hand, Marco, what's really interesting is that, there's always newbies. There's always beginners.
Absolutely.
There's always people that have never seen a personal training video. They're seeing one for the first time because of coronavirus. They follow you, and they love it, right? So I never sort of second guess people. And in fact, if you're into SEO, when I look at what do people search for related to digital marketing, I'll never forget, like 7 or 8 years ago, I did this for LinkedIn. And like, what is LinkedIn was like the number one. Well, it was in the top 10 of what people were searching for LinkedIn. I'm like, that's so stupid. Why? Everybody knows what it is, but I wrote a blog post. It got amazing traffic for a few years. And so you can never, I think as content creators and influencers, sometimes we do need to dumb down things for a broader audience. So anyway, so Marco, the conclusion is there's a lot of different ways to look at it. From a business perspective, branching out makes sense, but you just got to be authentic. You have to have experience to be able to talk about it. And you know what, if you're a newbie, it's like, I sell yoga gear and everybody asks me about personal fitness, and I'm starting my own journey. And this is the first personal fitness video I made based on a routine that I created after watching all these other videos. Let me know what you think. Now, that is a great way to do it. Rather than saying you're the ultimate expert, bring people along the journey and say, hey, I'm just starting, and maybe some of you are too with coronavirus. Let me know what you think. I'm going to develop a series of videos based on my own experiences. I'm a newbie. I'm not some famous person out there, but it's something that's really important and that you've told me is important. And let's do this together. That is a recipe for success right there.
Absolutely. Well, because that's it. Because that's this problem, which is, oh, I won't start because I'm a newbie, for instance, or I know, for instance, let talk about our example. Why should I talk about this if there's a Neal Schaffer talking about this? Because Neal, for instance, is talking to another audience, which is in a more advanced stage of the knowledge. Because, for instance, Neal doesn't speak Portuguese, so I have advantage on that.
Absolutely.
And there's another thing, and Neal, for sure, because you are writing books about social media, and you are friend to people who are writing about, well, if not the same topic, around the same topic, and you don't see them as competitors. I like to give my way example, the song. For me, the best way, the best singer singing my way was Frank Sinatra.
Of course.
For me, but maybe for some people, if Shakira sings my way at his way, her way, oh, my way, oh, maybe they will love this version. So even though Frank Sinatra, for lots of people, was the best singer of that song, maybe to some people, which may be enough to be a good market, your tone, your voice, your way to do things will fit better their needs and their wills and their wants.
Can you hear the audio?
Yeah.
Hold on once. One more second. All right, that was a Sex Pistols version. So that's my that's one of my favorite versions.
Yeah, that's the point. There's always room for someone who is starting.
Yeah.
And have you ever had this someone reaching you out? Look, Neal, I love the way you talk about influencer. I would love to start my own thing, my own community, but there's so many people there.
Yeah, it's funny because I did not really start blogging and creating content around influencer marketing until when I started to write my book. So I was not an expert. If you had done a search for influencer marketing experts 2 years ago, you would have never found my name. In complete honesty, complete transparency. But I had a good enough knowledge about other things about digital and social media marketing. I had various experiences, and I was intent on really uncovering this power that I saw in the medium that most people were missing. So through interviews, through more writing, getting feedback, that's how I built up my expertise to writing a book on the subject. And, on the flip side, when I wrote a book on LinkedIn back in 2009, there were only like 3 or 4 books about LinkedIn. And then I saw all these other people writing books and all these other people writing blog posts, right? And they were doing different angles, different perspectives, different languages is obviously one way of doing it. They work from different industries. Maybe they had a renewed look at something. They weren't just saying the same thing that everybody else is saying. So if that is you, there's always room. I mean, even, I look at like Facebook ads. There's every time there seems to be a newcomer that has a new Facebook ads course out. Some of them, are they good or bad? I don't know, right? But it's never too crowded because it's about you and your unique perspectives and your unique experiences, and nobody can duplicate that. And, for some further advice down that line, I would say if you're in a very, very crowded market, what's going to differentiate you are those experiences. So just like that video that maybe some of you remember when Steve Jobs passed away, this graduation speech at Stanford University that he did, where he talks about connecting the dots, right? If you connect the dots to your past, you're going to unlock things that further differentiate you and further experiences that you can provide in your content. We weren't talking about influencer marketing when, I had airlines reach out to me like 10 years ago to, fly on their plane and talk about them. So I already had those experiences. I didn't realize until I went back. It's like, wow, I guess I've been doing influencer marketing. You know what I mean? Or blogger outreach. Well, we called it blogger outreach 6 or 7 years ago, but that's influencer outreach, influencer marketing, where the influencers are the bloggers. They're not Instagrammers. So when you do that, you uncover a lot of unique IP or intellectual property. It's an exercise I recommend you all go through if that is your worry.
Absolutely. Well, I'm thinking about so many things because it's this thing about and I think I think it's important to talk about this once. It's not about influencer marketing, which is the main problem in my opinion. It's not like looking like this on photos, and it's for because there's another thing that I don't agree too much, which is this: oh, you have to measure everything, you have to have these metrics and everything. I think it's not easy to measure everything, if not impossible, when you're talking about influencer marketing. And I give this so simple example. 6 or 7 years ago, I wanted to buy a on the budget microphone, and then I went to Amazon and I saw this amazing thing, and I will, okay, let me see what people are saying about this. So I went to YouTube and I found this amazing guy, Marcus Brownlee, and I was seeing him reviewing the microphone, and I say, oh my God, I believe in this guy. He's saying that the microphone is good. Let me buy it. So it's important when you think about being influencer to be seen as someone who has the trust of his community and is heard, because that's it. If you understand this, if you want to build your influencer career, or if you as a company want to reach out to an influencer, you should think about this not in big numbers or in nice faces, because okay, they could work in the short term. Yes, they, I think in some markets they will succeed, but we are always talking about marathons, right, Neil?
Indeed. And I think that example brings up two interesting things that I want to discuss, which is number one, when you did a search, you were searching for videos on YouTube, which a lot of people do. And you probably, hopefully, in the search results, maybe found the company's YouTube channel, if they had one, where they probably had a demo. And the demo just went over the features. And probably what got the most views and what showed up near the top of the search results were people that had influence, that had actual authentic reviews that people were watching and liking and commenting, right? So that shows you the power of influencer marketing right there. It's very, very hard for companies to be able to gain the top search results from people when they do that so well and they're so authentic and they deliver the content people want, not delivering the content that companies want to talk about. And I'm forgetting my second point there. But the second point is, yeah, you saw it and you got the information you wanted, and that did trigger that purchasing. So if that person had, 10 subscribers and no likes, or they had 1,000 subscribers, or they had 10,000 subscribers, or they had a lot of thumb up or no thumb up or comments, all these social signals as people we're also looking at. So I'm not saying that, you can only have 10 followers and have a tremendous amount of influence. Obviously, with numbers comes that. But if you saw a video with the person had 10,000 subscribers, maybe the video had 5,000 views, but there were more thumbs down than thumbs up, you may not trust that video as much. And this is where that community aspect of people actually watching and giving you a thumbs up becomes so important. So there's a lot of things going into the equation here. But at the end of the day, the best content with the best engagement does seem to rise at the top of search results for those reasons. And that's why you see influencers, especially on YouTube, but even in Google as well, you'll see influencers that rise at the top of the search results because of that.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about your book. We were talking about the topic of your book, but you released it on March, right?
Yes, March 17th.
Which challenges this COVID thing brought to the content you put on it? Because I think that some things, which challenges, which because I believe that in some aspects your book came in the right time, right?
In
Because that is
retrospect, yes, yes. And it really comes down to, I mean, how do you promote a book? So there's things you do digitally and there's things you do offline. You do book tours, you speak. So in May, I was supposed to speak in Belgrade, in Serbia, as well as in Mexico City. Those obviously got delayed, or they're not canceled. They're postponed to the fall, hopefully. I was supposed to speak at a content marketing conference in Boston in April. That didn't happen either. And whenever you speak, that gives you the opportunity to sell books and spark word of mouth. But if we need to become digital first, and this is what I'm telling all my clients and what I'm blogging about, I had to do it myself. So it's like, okay, there's certain things that I can't do. What can I do? And I actually wrote a Facebook post on this where, I doubled down on building relationships, mainly with influencers, but relationships and content to help get the word out digitally about the book. So, and actually not needing to travel physically gave me more time to do this more efficiently. So, a lot of my friends were saying, "Oh my gosh, Neal, what are you going to do? It's the middle, I feel so sorry for you. The publisher should have delayed the publishing." I'm like, "Hey, it is what it is. I'm the ultimate positivist. I'm not gonna, the ultimate optimist. I'm not going to let that hold me down. I just need to do things differently. I just need to pivot." And I think those of us that are in digital and social media, we understand when you have 50,000 followers in Google Plus and then Google pulls the plug, you need to pivot, right? And you can't just put all your eggs in one basket. So to
absolutely
me, it was a natural thing to do, in all honesty. And for some businesses, it's been natural. For most businesses, it's been really challenging. And for most professionals, it's been challenging. But I go back to where this journey began, Marco, as an entrepreneur in digital and social media marketing, began when I was let go of my job, 12 years ago when we had our last crisis, which was a financial crisis in 2008 and 2009. So often from crisis comes opportunity when you look for it, when you don't feel down, when you don't get angry, when you don't blame others, when you think, okay, I need to turn the page. I need to create a new chapter for my story. What is it going to be? What can I do? How can I help people?
perfect. And the feedbacks, does this context resonates in the feedback you're having about the book?
Does the feedback? Oh, I've been getting great feedback that even people are like, well, with COVID-19, influencer marketing is just going to go away, and I'm like, no, no, no. That it's the opposite. It's you need
Absolutely.
you need to build more relationships with people. You need to leverage influencers more as we become more and more digital first as businesses. People have always been digital first. Businesses are always playing catch up. So I think looking at the reviews and the feedback I've been getting, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And there's no mention of this is out of place with coronavirus, because that's never the way I looked at influencer marketing to begin with. And I think I spent so much time really trying to not evangelize, but reset people's mindset. In life and business, Marco, it's all about mindset. If you want to
Absolutely.
learn how to use Facebook, buy a $9 Udemy video and figure it out, or just do it, right? But to be successful at things, there's no manual. But the mindset will give you a lot of things that that will help you. That will help you realize, okay, I have a car now. I don't need to worry about what engine's in it or how to fix an engine. I just need to know, where am I going to take that car? What journey am I going to go on? And that's mindset. And that's what everybody needs to be successful.
Absolutely. I think mindset is crucial. For instance, if you just buy a book because you want to buy a book, it doesn't. Do you like the book? Oh, no. Yeah,
Yep.
I've been noticing, because I do often. I did not now, not so many as I like because of this coronavirus thing, but I made lots of trainings, and I faced people want to go to trainings, but they don't want to change anything, and that's this problem. And another question: do you think that to become an influencer, a good book, writing books, it's a nice way to do so?
It's not necessary. You can build influence without a book, but a book is a big fat business card. and it gives you credibility, and it's a great vehicle to get to know people. Send them a copy of your book. People love that. It's such a small thing that you can do, and it becomes something that's Instagrammable. It's a physical product. If you do an ebook, it's another thing. But if you do a physical book, it is a physical product that people can actually hold up and show in a photo or video. Which, if you do a lot of digital training, what have you, you don't have that sort of physical product. So I think it's a great thing to do. If you're very knowledgeable about something, it's just about repurposing the content you already have and putting it in the format of a book. And now you're on this huge search engine called Amazon, right? Which is huge, right? And
Absolutely.
and it does incite word of mouth once you get people talking about your book. And if people don't talk about it, then you can do a lot of things that I've done to get people to talk about it. So yeah, it is definitely, I think, will make your life easier and will help differentiate you. Because everybody's doing video, everyone's doing podcast, everyone's on Instagram. Not everybody's writing a book, so it still is a differentiator, I think.
Absolutely. And there's this thing, as you said about influencer marketing, that some people are killing it on the right around the corner.
Right.
And we know that on this marketing, mostly on digital marketing, they are killing everything all the time. And it's happening the same with books. People are saying books are dead, video, but and I think I can talk about this because everybody knows I love video, but a good book is a good book. Having the paper, and you can write it down, some ideas, underline that I think there's always place to a good book.
Well, it allows you to go into a certain depth about something, right? Now, if you don't want to give away the secret sauce, that's fine. But even, I was talking about ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson, a book is his lead magnet, right?
Absolutely.
He'll sell it for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and similar to a podcast, which if you do it right, gives you the chance to interview a lot of cool people. A book can do the same. Hey, I'm writing a book. I'd love to interview. People love to be included in books. So it is a great networking vehicle as well if you decide to use it in that way.
Perfect. Well, Neal, we are coming to an end, my friend. If you can wrap up this, the importance of influencer marketing, and give us three key ideas, which will they be?
So idea number one is that in digital and social media marketing, there's a few different things that you can do. We're actually quite limited in what we can do. Everything really falls under, having a website or app, right? The SEO of that, of appearing in search engines, the email marketing and marketing automation, the content marketing / blogging, the social media marketing, which is either organic or paid, or influencer marketing, which is leveraging other people in social media. So it's one of these 6 sort of pillars of activities, of strategic things you can be doing. Have you been doing that 6th part? Because a lot of businesses haven't, or they've only seen it as a campaign, not in terms of a long-term investment. So that's the first thing, is to really, where are we spending money? Where are we investing money? How can we better align it with what's useful today and what can provide a great ROI? So that's number one, is that. Number 2 is really redefining who is an influencer. Look into your customers, your partners, your employees, your email database, your social media followers, people that talk about you on social media. Find anybody that has over 1,000 followers in any given social network. That is an influencer that already has some brand affinity with you, that already know, like, and trust you, and start a conversation. We're looking to build a program. We want to build a brand ambassador army. How can we work together? And I think from that, you're going to get lots of ideas. The third one is that I believe that in many ways, influencer marketing brings the social back to social media, because if instead of investing in Facebook or Instagram, or instead of investing in ads, right, you're investing in people, you're investing in relationships. And those are long-term. that deliver ROI every time they mention your company, every time you do something which they like, which if they're a fan, if they're a customer or an employee, there should be lots of things they like about you. So it is a completely different paradigm. And I do believe that that is, businesses exist before the internet because of word of mouth. And even with the internet, word of mouth is such a critical component. The only way to get word of mouth is through relationships. And influencer marketing is the way to begin developing those relationships that are going to deliver business value year in and year out.
Yeah. Keep it conversational instead of transitional.
Well said, my friend.
Perfect. Well, Neal, we reached the suggestions of the guest, which is I want you please to suggest a professional that you think that people may follow, a book, a habit you have, a tool, a
Oh,
movie, and a TV show.
oh wait, one of each, or any one of those?
Yeah, one of each, please.
Oh wow,
If
okay. Uh, let's see here. Okay, so looking at my bookshelf, if you are an entrepreneur, and this is something that we talked about, of getting customer feedback to see whether or not you should develop a product or service, you should obviously know about this book, Will It Fly by Pat Flynn. So that is my book. TV show. I am currently binge watching The Walking Dead. And I know it's been around for a while, but it is I watched the first few episodes with my family and they thought it was ridiculous and stupid, but I kept watching it and it's really a compelling, really awesome TV show, which says a lot about human nature as well. So if you've avoided watching it, please watch it. Okay, so we got the TV show, we got the book. What's next? The tool.
yeah, it can be a tool.
Well, I'm a big fan of the tool that you're using right now, StreamYard, which if you ever wanted to try live streaming or if you do podcasts, you're looking for a tool to interview people with that has video, I'm a big fan of StreamYard. So, hopefully I'm not copying you, Marco, but that's my...
No, well, that that's the link for if someone wants to try it. A professional, Neal.
There you go. And what were the other ones? I'm sorry.
Professional.
Oh, professional. Um, well,
It's tricky, I know.
yeah. So in terms of podcasts, there's a guy that has a great podcast about blogging, and he's not really well known, but his podcast is really excellent. The podcast is called The Blogging Millionaire, and it's just someone who, whenever I try out a new podcast, I start with the first episode. And the first episode was about he had these health issues and he's thankful to be alive. And I wasn't sure where the podcast was going, but it's really a very, very compelling podcast about really strategically blogging. So, I think his name is Brandon Gale, but more importantly, the name of the podcast is The Blogging Millionaire, and I highly recommend you check that out.
Perfect. Thank you.
What's left?
Did you mention the tool?
StreamYard.
Yeah, StreamYard, yes. Habit. And should be healthy and legal.
Habits. Well, let me give you some professional habits.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So I'm big into processes, right? And with especially with marketing and PR and branding and for my own brand, obviously with my clients as well. But for my own brand, I have daily, weekly, and monthly processes. And I try to be able to say, you always think, well, every day I want to do this or every day I want to do that. You need to actually put it in writing. These are the things that I'm going to do every day. And then you'll notice some things like, well, I don't need to do it every day. Once a week is fine. Well, those go into your weekly process. And then there's some things at a minimum where every month I do audits of like my WordPress or, SEO or anyway, there's a variety of things I do on a monthly basis. And really putting those things on paper makes it easy for you to stick to them. But you also see, wow, I'm spending 3 hours a day on these things that I think I should be doing every day. That's way too much. I want to limit this to 15 minutes. What are the most important things I should be doing? So you begin to actually fine tune and optimize what you think you need to be doing on a regular basis. and you get a lot more done, a lot more things that you should have gotten. And podcast is a great example. So for me, my weekly process days are Fridays. And for me, Fridays are content creation days where I make sure that my blog post for the next week, my podcast for the next week is all set, right? And if you don't have those days, those processes, yes, you can do batch processing, what have you, but it gets really, really challenging. And you end up going a year or two without podcasting, without blogging, which has happened to me. So I'm a big fan of processes. They have to make sense. You have to measure them, measure how much time it takes you to do these things. But that's where you begin to find a lot of ROI over time, because it is a marathon. And without the
Absolutely.
processes in place, you run out of
Absolutely.
breath, you run out of water, you run out of whatever.
Yeah, I love also to think about the framework where I can save time, because I say this all the time. I want to make the most with the less.
Absolutely.
It's important. And to end, a movie.
A movie,
Yeah.
I don't really watch that many movies. But my favorite movie, probably my favorite movie of all time, is a movie called Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which it's like a Gen X movie. It came out in the late 80s, and it is about a high school kid in Chicago who takes a day off high school. He fakes being sick, and he kidnaps a few of his friends, and they spend the day just having tremendous experiences in Chicago. They went to a Chicago Cubs game. They, went to the top of the Sears Tower, which at the time was one of the tallest buildings in the United States. And, one of the lines from the movie is, if you don't look around and see everything there is to see, or if you don't look around and take a fresh breath of air, you miss out on a lot of life. So I just think that we always have to keep things in perspective, and we need to have a really, really good work-life balance. And that movie was for me. I always go back to that in terms of like work-life balance, of being able to always smell the roses and see the beauty in life and experience the things that we should be experiencing. And there's so much, just by taking one day off of work, there's so much joy in living that we can experience. So that's the movie I recommend that you all watch if you've never heard of it.
Oh, perfect. Well, it's an amazing way to finish the show. Neal, it was a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for every amazing insight you brought to my audience. I'm looking forward to give a deep in your book, because by these days I'm a little overwhelmed. I need to make a slow down and look at your book. Hope this will be running fast and good. And if you want to give some last words,
Yeah, there's so much potential for businesses and for people. So I just hope that, this hour of conversation and, tuning into Marco regularly just gives you that inspiration, gives you the mindset to do more, and to be the best that you can be.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for you, Neal. It was a pleasure. Thank you for all of you who were watching us now and then the replay. I've been getting DMs about the show, Neal.
Well, that's great. I've had a few people reach out to me. Oh, been a big fan. I see you on Marco's show. Please accept my LinkedIn connection request. So
Okay.
it's been pretty cool to see.
Okay, perfect. So hope you did all of you liked. I can say wish you a nice weekend. Enjoy. Do influencer marketing the right way. Start building your own influence based on the most important asset you have, which is you. Okay,
Amen.
so see you around. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.